This is Rick Rule for Rule Investment Media and the Rule Classroom, sponsors of the 2025 Natural Resources Investment Symposium, held July 7 through 11 in Boca Raton, Florida, or via live stream from the comfort and convenience of your own home. A couple things you need to know about the conference. We're going to give you 50 hours or more of programming over 4 days, more than you could absorb over 4 days. To that end, the conference will be recorded, and you'll have access to the recordings for a full year, which you will need. Despite that, we have decided in years past that you have a better experience if we do interviews with every exhibitor at the conference and every speaker at the conference before the conference, so that you can identify ahead of time what you need to work harder on. And you can reach out to the exhibitors and reach out to the speakers to allocate your time and your resources more efficiently at the conference. Two more things that you need to know about. Every public company exhibitor at our conference is owned in my accounts. That means our exhibitors are content too. At every other conference in the world, the qualification to be an exhibitor is a check that cashes. At my conference, the exhibitors have all been vetted. And that allows me to make you, the attendee, an extraordinary offer. If you come to the Natural Resources Investment Symposium and believe that you didn't get your money's worth, I will refund your money. Yep, your tuition has a solid gold guarantee. In 30 years of making this guarantee, we've had to refund less than 0.1% of the commissions. That notwithstanding, that is your guarantee that the financial risk is mine. So let's get right into today's interview. We are interviewing a returning guest who has performed very well for our past attendees, Mr. Shawn Khunkhun of Dolly Varden. Shawn, first of all, tell us a bit about yourself and your background and how you came to be here.
Okay, Rick, thanks for this opportunity. I've been in the mining industry for 22 years. I've mainly been focused in Canada in precious metals. And, I spend my time, traveling all over the world, meeting with investors, visiting projects, and I've got a real passion for the industry. I'm an avid investor, and have learned from people like yourself about being a contrarian, and just really razor focused on precious metals in Canada.
I've known about the Dolly Varden deposit for years, and of course became interested when your team took control of the deposit and began to move it forward. In the last couple of years, though, you've gone beyond the original Dolly Varden discussion, Dolly Varden deposit. Let's begin, though, by taking a regional view. The Dolly Varden deposit and your two new deposits are in northwestern BC in an area colloquially called the Golden Triangle. Tell us something about the mineral endowment of the Golden Triangle and why the Golden Triangle should matter to global investors.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Golden Triangle, for your audience, if they think of Vancouver, Canada, the Golden Triangle is nestled in northwest BC on the British Columbia-Alaska border, and it's got a long history. It dates back recorded history to about the 1890s. So you've had about 150 years of production. And I'll talk about three notable precious metals deposits in the Golden Triangle. So if you go to the premier deposit, which was around 1920, the Guggenheim family owned the deposit. And when it was in operation, it was the most profitable gold mine in North America. It produced 2 million ounces of gold and 45 million ounces of silver. It was the most profitable mine in the era. So this produced throughout the 1930s, and it really insulated the North, and the North prospered during the Great Depression. And if you fast forward to 1989, it was the discovery of the Eskay Creek deposit, and this is a legendary deposit and mine that rivals, any in history, in my opinion, because it produced over 200 million ounces of silver at around 2,000 grams per ton. It also produced 3 million ounces of gold at almost 50 grams per ton. And Rick, what articulates the richness of the ore in the VMS deposit of Eskay Creek is the fact that if you go back to when Barrick was operating the mine in the 1990s, throughout the 90s, the gold price was sub $300. So you had an environment where the gold price had a two handle on it, and we're not talking 2,000, but 200. And the deposit was so rich that it afforded them to fly the gold out. So this was a time where there wasn't roads, there wasn't power, ice and glaciers covered much of the area. And so Premier and SK has proven that the Golden Triangle has a rich history. What made that history modern, and this was a company that you were instrumental in getting behind and founding, Silver Standard and Bob Quartermain, the Pretium deposit, which is now Brucejack, is operated by Newmont, one of the top gold mining companies in the world. The Brucejack deposit highlights that the Golden Triangle isn't only great from a historical context, but it's showing that in modern day, this is a gold mine that's producing 300,000 ounces a year. And I don't know their exact cash costs, but my assumption is with gold at around 4,000 Canadian dollars an ounce, they're probably making something like $2,500 on every ounce they're producing. Multiply that by 300,000. It's a great business. So the Golden Triangle, I can sum it up by saying it's one of the richest areas on planet Earth. It is actually technically the richest 20 kilometers on the planet. If you take Rudy Frank's Seabridge, the KSM, and you draw a circle into Newmont's Brucejack, that is the richest 20 kilometers on planet Earth. So that's a little history of the Golden Triangle. But I just want to end with one idea, which is there's 10 times more silver in the Golden Triangle than there is gold. So I like to think of it as the Silver Triangle.
So let's talk about what you're doing. We became involved in Dolly Varden with the original Dolly Varden deposit, a high-grade silver deposit. You expanded the company's focus, as you said you would, taking on Homestake Ridge. So I think that's interesting in terms of scope and scale, and also the possibility of combining the two. Recently, you announced that you've acquired a porphyry district that's related to it. So if you could talk about, to the extent that you can, the entirety of your operations up north, whatever synergies might exist, and the path forward to prove either independently or in an integrated fashion these deposits.
Well, the way I view our strategy is, the vision was, and this all started about 5 years ago. And if you go back 5 years, the price of silver is $16 US, and the price of gold is about $1,300. And my strategy, my vision was, this is one of the richest areas in the world. It's also located in a stable, safe mining jurisdiction. And it's in an area where production's occurred for 100 years, and I think it will occur for the next 100 years. So my strategy was, let's take these past producing mines. Let's reawaken some past treasures. The Dolly Varden mine was the richest silver mine in not only the Golden Triangle, but actually in all of the British Empire. The Torbert mine, which we also control, was Canada's third largest producer throughout 1949 to 1959. So the idea I had was, if we took these past producing mines and we expanded that mineralization and we brought in some neighboring deposits, as you mentioned, we'd have the appropriate size and scale. So the strategy here is the best place to look for gold and silver is next to old mines. And the reason we've been successful is our team of scientists have unlocked incredible discoveries. And as I mentioned, these are some of the richest deposits in the world. So the strategy to continue here is to try to identify the next Brucejack, the next SK, the next Premier. And I think we're probably in the third inning in terms of on our way to validating that idea.
Do you think that there are synergies between the deposits? In other words, do you think that they connect, or do you think that there's a possibility for a central production hub, which will lower the development costs for all of the above?
So if you look at the way the North used to operate, it was on a hub and spoke basis. There was a smelter just south of the Dolly Varden silver mine called Antiochs. And all the ore, including the Dolly Varden ore, would head down to this smelter. And when I studied the North, and I studied how you'd have a hub, and then you'd have these different high-grade spokes that would feed it, that's the reason the company went out and bought Homestake. So we've got that hub and spoke model. So to answer your question, yes, I think there's synergies between bringing ore into one processing facility. However, the question that we're trying to answer is, are these deposits connected? Now, up at Homestake, when we first did the deal to acquire Homestake in 2022, there was a great distance between the Homestake silver deposit and the Homestake main deposit. We've narrowed that gap to only 300 meters. So I am confident that we're demonstrating there's a relationship between deposits, and now that gap is only 300 meters. Now, in the Silver Rich South, we are this year going to drill in between the deposits and try to connect the dots between Wolf and Torbrit. And we've strategically stepped out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of meters. So we now have 1 kilometers of strike length at the Wolf deposit. But this is the summer where we're going to take some ambitious shots. We've got an 800-meter step out planned, and it's the type of risk. It's the right type of calculated risk that, if we're successful, the returns can be incredible.
Shawn, thank you for the incredible work that you've done building Dolly Varden on behalf of shareholders, particularly on behalf of myself, of course. Thank you, too, for your sponsorship and support of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium. If our attendees want to learn more about Dolly Varden, and I encourage them to, who do they talk to, and how do they reach that person?
Rick, they can talk to me, and I'm going to give you my personal email, which is sk@dollyvardensilver.com. I'm actually going to do something as well, as I'm going to put out my cell phone number. And if any shareholder or any investor 7 days a week, 24 hours a day wants to call me, 604-374-5515. Now, not everybody is the same, and some would just like to come onto the website and maybe not talk to me or one of our communications representatives. We've actually got an IR chatbot that you can go and you can ask questions, and you will get your answers within seconds, right on our website, dollyvardensilver.com.
It's fantastic. Those chatbots will put me out of business. That's great. Shawn, that was a wonderful answer. The buck stops with the boss. Call the boss. He'll take you through the story. You just heard how. Shawn, one more time, thank you for the great work you've done for Dolly Varden shareholders and for the attendees at our conference over the last couple of years. I really look forward to hosting you in Boca Raton.
That means a lot coming from you, Rick. Thank you very much.